We are back. Lyrical Ones 100 episode. Affluent, how you doing?
I'm doing well. I got the ups and the downs, the heavy and the light feelings. I got the emotions and the thoughts. I'm at 100. Definitely am at 100. Full of feeling life. Got a box full of feelings. That's how it is right now.
Oh man, man,
It's
man,
like a chest or a trunk.
just filled up, just
That,
full
that's it.
fulfillment.
And I'm
You
and I'm not satiated. I'm still not satisfied. I need more. Still more life.
you
How you
want
living?
more?
We got
Uh,
guests here. We got
we
guests.
do, we do got guests. We're gonna get as we per usual get to our guests eventually. Not yet, but they're here. Y'all can see it, right? Um, but keeping in 100. Um, it's funny how the little things. This is literally the culmination of right before getting on live right now, right? Um, I had just seen our two guests, right, and I had my frustrations of the day, right, and so in that a story was shared about what a someone in our community is currently going through, and that helped shift my perspective about the lessons we learn. So right now, I am I'm blessed that I get the opportunity to learn from these different things. As much as I may suffer from the idea of perfection, I have to accept progress and progression. Shout out to Grand O because he hit me with the POP and I was like, POP? And he was like, yeah, progress over perfection. And I was like, I'm gonna live with that. I'm gonna lean into that. So shout out to
That's
Grand
right.
O for that one. Um, but yeah, that's the reminder of the day. So with that, as we pivot, Figo don't go. Guest, let the people know who you are.
I am Desiree Lacap, aka Lacapture, and I'm a filmmaker. That's who
Filmmaker.
I am.
Okay,
hmm
and where do you hail from? Where's your existence now?
I'm from the Bay Area, born and raised out here.
Okay, okay.
Yeah.
Welcome, welcome, welcome.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. It's an honor.
And now our second guest. Figo, you can go.
Thanks. Hi, I'm Fego. I'm from planet Earth. Uh, yeah, no, from the Bay Area as well. We out here.
Out
Yeah.
here, we outside, we inside, we online. We live right now on multiple
Live.
platforms.
Yeah,
Twitter live, YouTube live, Twitch live. It's good life.
it is.
Right.
And just to highlight,
Facebook
you
live.
never you never really know who's watching. That's another thing that I'm constantly reminded of. Um, I was like talking to somebody recently and they was like, "Yeah, the last episode, y'all." And I was like, "Wait, what?" I was like, "Oh, okay." Yeah, sometimes it's easy to think you're just speaking into the ether. And yeah, we do have participants that pop up in the comments. So I always go to the comments as like that's our regular, participants, not realizing there's a lot of people who passively just sit, watch, and consume what's going on, and you just don't know. So yeah, we are live. This is the 100th episode. It is important for the fact that there is something brewing within the LO, the Lyrical Opposition community. And Vigo, what is brewing right now within LO? What is currently being created now that we have you and we have Des? What is being cooked up?
Yeah, man. Well, we're excited to be working on this film closely. Will it capture Des on highlighting this house, like shedding light on the housing crisis? So we have a film titled Re-Entrification. It is something that's been in the works way before we started. Kirk Davis and a few other folks got together, wrote up a grant to shed light on what would it look like for folks that are native to the land to come back. And then it just evolved into having conversations and interviews with folks that have been that are unhoused and are now receiving services from this organization called the Firm Foundation, which is building tiny homes for folks, and we're exploring like their lives, their stories, and we're incorporating spoken word into it. And we have the honor to have music from friends also that are involved in lyrical opposition. I see you, Cineo, and connecting with other composers that are creating music. And we were talking about this earlier with Desiree, but it's like a puzzle, and we're constantly exchanging ideas of how to tell the story and properly tell the story respectfully, of each resident. So it's a little bit of, yeah, on my side, but Des wants to expand.
What? I want to expand.
Yeah. Do you
Just
have
throw me
any
on the bus.
do you have
Um,
any? Well, actually, what I'm more interested in, Des, unless you have something, do you have a piece that you'd like to share? Because there's a question I do want to ask you.
yeah, I just want to touch base on what he just mentioned, what we were talking about earlier, how it's a puzzle piece. As we're sitting in post production, as we're still filming a ton of things, it's like it's an ongoing process. Like I feel like that's what documentaries are mainly. It's like you could have a script in the beginning, you could have a story, but it'll constantly change as you film these new stories from the people that are involved. And yeah, it's just an evolving process. But I think that's the really fun part about it. It's because I don't know, there are different people who could tell different stories with the same footage, but this is how we're going to tell the stories. So I think it's just a super exciting process.
Okay. Okay. I appreciate that. So what I wanted to ask you, Lacap, is how did you come up with the name Lacap? Lacapture. How did that come to be? How did that manifest?
So my last name is Lacap, obviously. So Lacapture came from when I was living in LA actually for half a year. I was I had a roommate who I went to high school with, so we moved out there, and then I don't know, she was just like Le Capture, and I was like, oh, that stuck with me ever since. It's been 2015. I remember I pulled up a picture recently actually where it was like we drew on the wall in chalk, and it was like Le Capture in the film strips, and I was like, I don't know, ever since then it's just stuck with me.
Okay,
Nice.
okay. So representing for
Hmm.
where you come from, where you been, and what you
Hmm.
do. I see.
Yeah.
Um, in that, what I wanted to know is how'd you get involved in working with Fego? How did that come about? Like,
Yeah. How did the story? Okay, so backstory. I guess he hit me up. If you go, how did you come across? That's what I would have done
Oh
too.
yeah, no, remember I had told you I seen the trailer for shout out to Oos and
Oh yeah,
Portia, the
yeah.
poetic activist. I seen this like it was like a movie of their wedding, pretty much like their upcoming wedding. And I was like,
Hmm.
this is shot beautifully. And I was like, I need to see who created this because I
Yeah.
have ideas. And then I emailed you because I want to be really official with it.
Professional.
It wasn't just a DM. I was like, yo, love your work. How can I work
Hmm.
with you? And then yeah,
Yeah.
great.
So he
Yeah.
hit me up, and then you know what's funny? I was just looking through my notes, and I was with Vigo like a couple days ago, and I was like, oh shoot, look at the notes from whenever we talked, like last year, um, and it was so he hit me up for a music video. His music video, Late Night. If y'all haven't seen it, go check it out. Late Night. And then from there, we did another one probably a month or so later, Cafe con Leche. And then, yeah, we've just been vibing ever since. Like, it's not just a collaborative thing. I think we've created like this bond and friendship that's super meaningful. So that's why I hella appreciate about it.
oh, definitely, those videos are super dope. The trailer to the wedding, um, magnificent. I remember when I seen that, and I was like, "What type of $100 million budget do they got? What type, like, what Michael Bay esque, like, what Universal Studios doing this? Who Warner Brothers backing them? Like,
True.
this wedding looking super official off a trailer. I was like,
Yeah.
they're just the visuals, the scenic, the car. I'll fluent take it.
Hmm.
I was in that wedding and I was looking, waiting for the car to roll up.
That's That's
I, the wedding was so fly. You would have thought that the car was coming. Like you seen the trailers, like, oh man, I can't
yeah.
believe I'm in this wedding. Can't believe this this event is happening. And then
Hmm.
I'm in the wedding. I'm like, I'm waiting. It's gonna come before me. Is SV go pull up in it? Is poetic activists go pull up in it? They
Yeah.
hit their vows. I'm like, is the car still gonna come up? Like, when is it gonna come? It's a West Coast thing. They playing nips at the wedding. I'm like, oh man, I know it's
Dang,
coming. I
that's
know it's
lit.
coming. Um, the car wasn't there, but
But hey, it was in the trailer.
looking
Their announcement.
looking for the anniversary because they do stuff. It's like that was just a preview. Now they in like old outlandish ads together, and
Hmm.
they doing all types of stuff. And I was like, oh, so it all started with Lacap. I say, okay, I see how it gets down. So now I'm watching bits and pieces because I be at the studio sometimes, bits and pieces of this Re-Entrification documentary, and I'm seeing the folks y'all talking to, the subject matter, and also born and raised in the Bay Area, born and raised in San Francisco, and relocating to the East Bay, you get to see a lot of what was and then what's changed. And so it's really exciting with stuff like Straight Outta Hunters Point and Last Black Man in San Francisco and um, different pieces touching on the changes in the Bay Area, but not an in-depth look, I think, at the impact, um, nor in kind of what folks who are from here want for their cities, what they want for their neighborhoods, what they want for their communities. And for me, I think I think anticipating just from the folks I've seen you interview so far and the artists that I know that will be involved, I'm anticipating just the the journey for everybody and how they'll be changed um, by being a part of this.
I mean,
Hmm.
Figo, what we've had conversations, right? But more importantly, for those unaware, what is the meaning of this film? Like how how's that manifested in you, right? Like how does that exist and sit with you? Because I know we've talked about it. I know we all as a collective community, right? Housing, home, a sense of a place to rest, a place to seek refuge, sanctuary, right? All these different things have been a part of our lives, and this is really bringing home literally the conversation of what does it mean to understand your relationship with that, right? To have a place to stay. And yeah, like what is it on a personal note for you that you know will can be shown through this film?
Yeah, right on. That's a good question. I think it's been a full circle of life, right? Literally, being born and raised here from like San Francisco, moved to Daly City, to Richmond, just up and down, and seeing the changes, as you know, like, me from when we were like, I was a teenager running around the city and just, like living life, and but always being interested in art and film. And long story short, like not to go on a full on like testimony, but I at one point worked at a homeless shelter and seeing the conditions in which the people were living in, and hearing their stories. I always had this idea of like, what would it look like to really shed light on them as their whole being, not just the specific experience that they're going through, but just to get them, because they all have stories. I met folks that were doctors that found themselves in the shelter system, folks that were going to school, that were like going to Academy of Art, developing video games, and like these are stories that stuck with me. And it was just like a full circle experience because in high school I was drawn to doing. I did a report too on the unhoused, and as time progresses, you just see the numbers like going up, like skyrocketing, and it's like you don't even have to be super informed. Just look around. There's like tents left and right, and yeah. So, anyways, the opportunity presented itself to through Cross to tell this story. He's like, hey, like I've been working on this project. There hasn't been much progress. What would it look like for you to pick up the baton? And from there on, I was like, first person I thought of was LaCapture. I was like, already like we've been vibing and working together and been able to communicate like visions to her, and like she brings them to life, and then seeing her heart in the work too was super encouraging, because then it turns out as we're having these conversations, not let you speak on it, Lacat, but you're also like it's something that you wanted to shed light years ago too. And then back to you, Cineo. Like you worked on a film years ago around the unhoused and around gentrification to be exact. So we've all seen this growing up in the neighborhood. So being able to tell these stories is like, it's sacred, it's special. So um, that's a long answer, but yeah.
No, it's important and it's beautiful. Because oftentimes the message is out there, and there's no way to anchor it to what's the piece that brings you into it, right? Like we are creatives. We find different ways to create, whether that's with the people around us or whether that's through different mediums, right? Moments, memories, media, all these different platforms become ways to engage. We got King coming through with the wave. King is watching right now on Facebook. Shout out to King, and Twitch, as you can see.
King on the beat.
I caught that twice, fast on it. You see me moving. So the thing is that it's important to know, right? How does this apply to you? As much as this is you giving something to the public, giving something to us as the audience, the observers. Lacap, what's the piece for you, right? That resonates, that shows, that vibrates with who you are in the making of this production.
Um, yeah, but so touching base on a little bit on backstory of the piece that I did back then, which kind of brings us full circle as well, is when I first started going to college for digital filmmaking, they had us create a documentary, and I mean, my first instinct was to create one on homelessness. Just the all same reason as Figo. I don't know, something about wanting to give back. Like I'm a big person on, I mean, I'm huge on wanting to give back to those because I know how it feels like to not have anything, So I think I just have like a sense of urge to do that, and I think that's where my work ethic comes from, and being able to showcase that through my art and what it is that I love to do is just I don't know, it's a feeling I can't even explain. Like I think I've talked to Figo about this before. It's like it's unreal that I get to do this like as a career.
Oh, for sure, for sure. Shout out to the name change of King on the Road. We gotta always shout out those that choose to retire. But no, going back to what you were saying, right? That full circleness and that sense of giving back, right? Like to know, like a lot of times this isn't to project on you, but definitely to expose myself. Going to school for something in the creative space, there's so much uncertainty. You have a sense of duty, right? Where it's like, I'm going to do this, I'm going to learn, I'm going to make these things happen. And the imagination runs wild, but that, like, to base it out of reality, it's like the furthest thing because you just don't know where it's going to take you, right? Sometimes it's like, oh,
Mm-hmm.
am I going to have to go and do this type of work as a creative? Or am I going to have to do these things to find success? And then before you know it, here you are, right? Full circle where what you started off on is now you're making a return to, right? Now, me
Mm-hmm.
being kind of like the a backseat participant in this process, right? Just being able to witness it, to be in the arena of it, right? The creation process. It's been incredible. It's been like amazing to see how these ideas, right? Because they're conversations at first. At best, they're conversations, and then they turn into these actual moments of like this beautiful fluidity, right? And there's something in your perspective that I think is like it's something that is hard to capture, right? Playing off of Lacap, thinking about what it means to not just catch a moment, but to create a moment, and seeing whether it's the music videos or that trailer. That trailer, can't say enough about that trailer. Or just witnessing you at work doing what you do. There's a level of like grace and intentionality. And so where does that come from? Like how do you get to the point of I'm in school making this documentary, or even before that, like when did the camera fall in your hands to then be like, "Oh, I this is where I want to go."
I ask myself that all the time because I'm like in the zone whether I'm editing in Premiere or After Effects, and I'm like, how the heck did I get here? How did I learn all this? Where did this come from? Because it just all flows naturally. But way back when in middle school, I was always a kid with the camera. Like I always enjoyed it. I was always a person pointing and shooting at people and kind of like just going home and editing it. I don't even really remember the process of that or learning it at all, which is kind of bizarre now that I'm thinking about it. But I went to when I graduated high school, I actually went to college and changed my major probably like 5 times because I didn't want to admit to myself that I could go down this creative path as a career because I was so in denial because I thought the traditional route was the right way. So it took me about like 2.5, 3 years in college before I decided to actually go to school for digital filmmaking. Um, but yeah, it's unexplainable. I really have no idea because even the challenges, like the challenges that I faced as a filmmaker back then, all the nights and days that I shut my own ideas down or I was like hard on myself about stuff like that and it was just like, oh, it's not worth it, or creating things that I thought people wanted to see rather than creating things that I wanted to create. I guess once I got over or once I learned or experienced that process, I started to really learn that once I realized that I have the confidence within myself, I was able to really step into that and know that whatever it is I create, I I love regardless. Because if I didn't like something I did in a recent project, I'm not gonna put myself down about it like I used to before. I'll learn from that and I'll do 10 times better on my next project and kind of just it's just an ongoing learning process. Like I love learning. It's every single day. It's like I learn something new and
That's
I learn
it.
from everybody around me. So it's kind of like it's a beautiful process.
Yeah, it's interesting because we can look at the conditioning of of society to tell people one, like you have to make money, and whatever you do, you have to make money. It doesn't matter that you love what you do. It doesn't matter that what your inclination or what you're excited about or what you're passionate about. What matters is that you find some form of stability versus the stability of your heart, the stability of your spirit. It's it's more important that you compromise that to put food on the table. And what we learn, I think, as creatives is that if you find what sustains your spirit, everything else will fall in line. And I think Lacap really speaks to technology you were exposed to that you could come home and edit, right? It's like
Mm.
whatever generation you're in, if you started with film cameras, you found a way to a dark room. If you started digitally, right, you had preloaded programs to where you could view your media on your computer. And having that, it's like I know, like growing up, like had one of the first like QuickTime versions, like
Yeah.
where you couldn't loop your video. Um, One of the first, like, we had like Paint, and you could edit if you wanted to. You could edit your photos with Paint, but you had to like have this patience of a monk basically to sit and work with pixels um, in the Paint application. And then right, we like she said, like people don't even trip. The other trip, she just said Premiere and After Effects. Like I'm I got it on both gloves. Like how do you want it? And like just being able to edit in whatever way you're needed, whatever format of media you have is is amazing in itself, but that you chose to train and dive deeper into what came naturally to you is very special. And I think when we find the passionate director, we also find a person who's found their voice. Um,
Mm.
and we find someone who is sought and search for their voice and then learn to hear it and then acknowledge it and then assert that voice. Because there's stages where you may have been hearing your voice your whole life and then right say just easily dismiss this first notion, easily dismiss this first thought, uh, just like you talked about making what you wanted to versus making what you thought people wanted to see. And right, like Senor said, like there's capturing moments and then there's creating moments. And like whether it's Ketapon Duce right there, whether it's that or it's a trailer, right? You're co-creating something that was only in minds and hearts before. And
Mm.
right, turn it into something more, turn it into something that hey, 37 out of 100. Thanks, thanks, Juan Artest in the building. Um, and
Yeah,
world
shout
peace
out Juan
is near.
Artest, right?
World peace is near because we have creatives finding their voice and choosing to take that voice right out into the world. And we know as artists when we come up with ideas before we before we press them into a medium, they're layered on top of each other, and we have to express in different ways to give them room to breathe, to expand and to grow into more than just ingredients but recipes. And it's really cool to see what you've both done together so far. And like I'm excited just that we get to experience this journey. I want to know, how has Lyrical Opposition supported you or been a part of this journey with you in this Re-Entrification documentary?
Is it for me or Figo
Oh,
or both?
either one. Yes, for both of you actually.
I honestly think it's like the community I'm surrounded by, and it's those little moments where we kind of just check in on each other and make sure that we're all good. And, those mindful moments, like we just, what was it, like just yesterday or Monday or something, just, I don't know, everybody kind of just getting on the same page and checking in on each other and just sitting there sharing a moment with one another and just kind of sitting still. Um, I think that's really big. I think community with LO is amazing. Like I'm surrounded by the the presence of these people are such a blessing. So I think that's probably the best part of this documentary. So I didn't even mention the documentary, but I love the fact that I'm able to do it together, like with all the people of
No, that's
LO.
big. That's
So
big. I knew you was
yeah.
gonna say that.
Why? How do you know?
Um, because everyone says it. Because
Yeah,
we all say that.
because
Because we all,
Consistency.
because we all feel that way.
hmm
And everyone who arrives, right, has brought art with them, right? Because art
hmm
is anyone's interpretation of the world, right? And whatever medium that is, right? If it's a joke, right, or a story, an anecdote, a simile, right, a sonnet, right? It's their interpretation of the world and their time spent in it. And when you bring art and find community, right, the story has more ingredients, right? And it becomes a recipe for something that's digestible to others.
hmm
Figo, how do you feel like Lyrical Opsis has been there for you through this process?
Well, to save you like the whole story of lyrical ops and just in general, yeah.
Wait, is this what do you mean? Why are you gonna save me the story? I like
Uh, no,
stories.
the story, man, is from the gate. Like it definitely shifted my creative journey because, yeah, kind of like to your point, everyone says the same thing. It's like the community and just the being able to around like-minded individuals, that are, yeah, like it sounds cheesy, but like just positive. You know what I mean? People think that's cheesy. It's not cheesy with that. You get what I'm saying, though? But like, or overused or cliche is what I really meant to say. Like cliche, like oh, positive. But without it being forced, it feels like natural, like just being around each other. And um, anyways, that was my first time doing a show that with lyrical opposition where it was like, whoa, like folks are actually like cheering, like supporting each other. You know what I'm saying? Like it's like real squad, like real movement. And I was just drawn to that. I was like, yeah, I want to be around a team that wants to see everybody win. You know what I mean? Um, and from there, it's just grown to this point where like the fact that, and I was like, I've said this a few times, like Cross didn't have to tell me to like, yo, I want you to, to jump on this project. You could have picked someone else that might have done like 10 films under their belt. Um, those are moments that like I don't take for granted. You know what I mean? And being able to be in a team together, super encouraging, man. I don't know, I could go on for days, just the creative control around like people that believe in your dreams and your visions and you come together to create it. It's a beautiful thing. So yeah.
Now, that's big, man. It's like being in an artistic dojo,
Yeah, we
right?
sharpen each
Where
other up.
exactly everyone's strengthening, different aspects of the craft and who they are as a person, and learning together, becoming more self-aware, finding self-actualization, and it's get the roll in, get
Yeah,
get the slip and roll,
teaching boxing
Cineo.
classes like that's where we're at with it. Like Mondays, like you know what I'm saying? Like there's mindfulness, there's circling up, checking in how we're doing. Like these things matter. That's it.
That's
I just
true.
seen him
That's true.
dodging, so it made me think of that.
Well, I mean, that highlights something. You know, we know Figo as the rapper, right? Some that are fortunate enough know Figo as the actor. I have been lucky and blessed to see the trajectory of Figo from the stage play to Figo in the theatrical film, right? So, what is the role that you're currently in? Because this is a documentary. There's no need for an actor. What are you doing in this documentary? What is your role?
Well, I'm directing it, so that's some yeah,
So you're directing it, right?
you know.
How do we go from this entertainer who is in front of the audience, who now is removing themselves from being seen and is encapsulating the world around them, right? It's more so what's in your eyes than it is people seeing your face. So how did this come to be? Where did this start?
Man. Well, I keep bringing up this story too, but making Star Wars films similar to Dez, I always had a fascination with the camera as a kid, and I made Star Wars films, and I was like pretending to be a Jedi and doing Nelly covers and like 50 Cent covers. It was great. It's a good era, but that developed into like wanting to tell stories with it. But I didn't know that's what we were doing. I see your cat. Um,
Yeah, no.
um, but yeah, and I mean, it's something that it's literally like a dream come true to keep it a buck. Like I remember having a conversation actually with Dez as we were like creating these music videos. Like, yo, do you trust me even with this role? Like this, I may not have even like all the terminology and technical skills, but I do have a vision of the direction I want these stories to be told. So yeah, that's a big part of it, honestly, too. Like having a team that believes in like for the introduction of this film, I see a land acknowledgement from a lonely elder. Like I think bringing up an idea like that could be like there could be pushback if it was other folks, you know what I'm saying, or another company like, oh well, we want to make sure. But just having someone that I could share that idea with and be like, yo, that's dope, or like I see where you're going with that. I see the purpose behind that. Um, yeah, man. So yeah, that's why it feels funny to be like, yeah, I'm directing it, but it also seeing how it takes a village and it takes a community to like direct it to. Like it takes like bouncing off ideas, like with you, Cineo, with you, Des, having Alex sit back and be like, yo, I like that scene, that part. You know what I mean? Like these are it would be foolish for me to just be like, yeah, I'm fully like, no, this is community. This is a puzzle piece. I may be able to like fill a big chunk of this part of the puzzle, but I know Des sees something that I'm missing here, and she could bring in like quite a few amount of those pieces in, and then Cindy will catch something, and so on and so on. So I think the role of a director is also being able to collaborate with many folks, like from the music to the poets to. So yeah, man, I'm just super fortunate. Like, but I am owning it that role. I'm really like stepping into that, and that's been a big. I used to be super insecure about it, so it feels good.
Oh,
Can I just say the growth that I've seen in Figo though, like as a creative director, is it has blossomed so much since I met you. Like since our first video, and it's just it's so I don't know, it's an honor to witness that because I already know we're just gonna keep growing and going and glowing, and we're just gonna be doing big things. I already know. There's no doubt about that.
we got a bunch of comments coming in just to go over it. Tribe Called Quest feeling relaxation and kicking at the same time. Lyrical ones for episode 100. This episode got me bugging out. Love y'all movement and storytelling. Yeah, you gotta stay moving. It's important to stay moving. Some of the other ones, Tribe Called West, watching from Queens, right? Watching from Queens. This is midnight encouragement. So it's appreciated that you're watching this, that you're here with us. Kingston coming back, Juan Artest coming back. It is a community. This is community. This is taking ownership, right? We know there's a housing crisis going on in the world. You don't have to you don't have to be anywhere. You can just look around you. At all times, it's in your face. It's prevalent. It's the square footage of where you're currently at, right? It's where your family is. It's where you hope to be, where you are now, where you've been. Speaking to the past and how these things shape us, right? It is important to be mindful that not everyone's home is necessarily a home. And I'm saying that because in this film, there's a theme that people keep bringing back. And, you know, I- there's something that I feel like ties to success, our definition of success, right? It ties to failure. It ties those in different classes, different races, from different upbringings together. And Figo, what are some of those themes that you see as you're creating this film that are you know bringing people together?
Yeah. Well, one of the questions, it's like almost like an icebreaker, but like, what makes a happy home? We're asking every resident from the actor that's been films to the CEO running a company. We're asking people from all walks of lives what makes a happy home, and this question is universal. Like, and it's interesting to hear the different responses we're getting and the different emotions that are coming out of that. You know what I mean? And also showing, like, as today we're actually capturing a bunch of B-roll today and seeing how neighborhoods have a life of their own. Different neighborhoods, like literally, you go up from we were up at Nob Hill, and then the lower you go, the funkier it gets. You know what I'm saying? And and what I mean by that, it's like why, like it's so odd. Like why this division is so clear. You know what I mean? Of the classism that exists. You know what I mean? And there's still beauty. There's beauty in the struggle, of course. You know what I mean? Like there's families that live in these communities, but some things that it like shouldn't be normal for a kid to see. Some of the, like, a park shouldn't be near down the street where all this drug activity is happening, but yet up the street there's like these like mansions. You know what I'm saying? Um, anyway, so just kind of tripping, like San Francisco, iconic hills, and going up and down these hills and seeing this world we live in, and how clearly it's divided. You know what I mean? Just to keep it a buck. Um, yeah. Anyways,
Keep it a
that's
buck on
yeah.
episode 100 of the Lyrical
You know
Ones
what
podcast.
I mean? That part. Yeah.
Lacap, what is your cat's name?
Um, his name is Butter.
Butter.
Can y'all see him?
Hey, Butter. What's going on, Butter?
He's a tuxedo cat. Say
Tuxedo.
what's up, bro.
James
Welcome to the
Yeah.
Bond
Lyrical
with
Ones.
feline. Welcome to the
Yeah.
Lyrical
Well,
Ones.
Say thank
is this the first cat on Lyrical Ones?
I don't know. Is it?
I
I mean, it's
think
the
it
one for
is.
the 100th
Uh-oh.
episode wearing a tuxedo. I know that's for sure.
Ooh, look at
Came
you.
ready
You
for the party.
shining.
Came through for the party. Coat
Yeah,
shining and
he's trying to,
all.
for real. Look at
Just
that.
left the Met
Ow.
Gala and is here with us. Thank you, Butter.
Thank you,
Nice.
Butter.
So,
Nice. Say bye.
so Lacap, the thing about this process, right?
Hmm.
How many outside of what you did in school, how many movies have you worked on?
Mm. Outside of school, how many movies have I worked on? Honestly, probably one short film that I did like years ago. Um, Other than that, it's been more like music videos and trying to incorporate storytelling in those music videos because I'm really big on wanting to create a story, or just storytelling in general. So whatever chance I get, whether it's in a music video or even filming weddings, it's like there's a story in that as well, you know. So depending on how you put it together, it's kind of you're creating a story with the memories that you're capturing. Oh my God, brother.
Okay,
Nice.
okay. No,
That's
fair.
one thing we say about the community, the folks who listen to the podcast, that everyone is a lyrical one because everyone has a story, and we appreciate that you look to tell that story, you know, and whatever event or whatever subject you see fit to tell it.
Hmm.
Um, I know for myself, I love the idea of art starting me somewhere and taking me somewhere else. Um,
Hmm.
Even in a still life, I'll start right with myself and then venture into this painting, or I'll start with a song and musically, sonically, it'll take me somewhere different than where I started, or in video projects and visuals, that I could start, kind of start with a black screen and then take it on a ride. Exactly. What you think I was just rapping? Nah, telling stories out here, changing lives, and it's something I think it's admirable that that even in the sometimes what people think is mundane or everyday events, like a wedding, that you choose to bring more life into it, bring more depth into what's happening. Because like you ain't got to call it a story, right? You just say, They met, liked each other, got married. Here's the party, you
Mm-hmm.
know, and that you would look for more in something that people say. However many weddings happen in a day in this in a city and in society, each one can have a story, and they likely will have a story if you're involved.
Let me just say one thing. Sorry, uh, that's something that super stood out with Desiree, with Lacap, is her attention to detail. Like when I tell you I've worked with, other filmmakers, video folks, this was like, I'm talking about, and I remember telling Cineo, like, yo, like there's a whole, uh, write up around the vision, right? And breaking down scene by scene, shot by shot, down to the lighting, to the clothing, to the location, to the time in which that look. Talk like organization is something that off the gate I was like, yo, that I need that in my life just to keep it. And so there's many skills in, because there's a lot of talented filmmakers, talented singers, rappers. The list goes on of artists, right? But the hard work is, I think, what obviously we hear this a lot. What separates folks from others, right? And LaCap definitely is a testimony to that, because she only not only does she bring the talent and skills, but the hard work and attention to detail, man. I'm telling you. So super grateful. I just want to give you your flowers as we're on here, because it's real.
I
Yeah,
appreciate you. Thank you.
yeah.
I
I
mean,
mean,
yeah.
just look at her set right now. I mean, it took maybe 8 times for her to get it the way she wanted, but exactly, Senio. I'm like, I'm
Yeah,
never
like
using
he's showing
this
up.
this light. Yeah, you better arrive, Senio. You
Hold
better
up, wait, what?
quit playing. It's like
Man, thank you.
I'm never using the regular yellow light again.
Oh, that's not the
I
way. Oh, look,
I
Fego too. He's like, let me get this.
let me switch it up on them out here like this. Let me get the strobe going. I'm over here. I was like, there you go, Cindy. Right now,
Look at that.
look, look at what the capture done done
I
to
know.
the lyrical ones on the 100th episode. Look,
Yeah,
it ain't even the same thing no more. Like even though Butter is moving it in and out,
I
it
know.
still don't disrupt the composition of the shot.
I know. I'm glad. Look, Cineo upped
she's
his frame
she's
up.
she's like,
You
I'm
changed the
glad.
whole game, because the attention to detail is something that we all appreciate. And more importantly, LeCap, like where do you think that came from, right? Was it, like for me, right? Speaking for myself, my need for attention to detail is knowing that I'm trying to convey something, and knowing that there's no part that is bigger than the other, right? Like I'm a big believer that we have to treat this as a whole composition, to the most, like, to the speck of dust, right? Like
Mhm.
I need people to know that there was care put into this, and I know that there's someone who's gonna see these little details and like, oh, they knew that, or they went there, or they tried that, and I it resonates with me. So I want to know, where did that come from for you?
I want to say there's a couple words that stuck out to me years ago. It was preparation. Like this was going into 2020, I think, or 2019 or something. It's preparation, dedication, commitment, consistency. So I think just the preparation and dedication, it's kind of what you mentioned. I have this vision in my head, and I think I know the way to execute it is kind of drawing it out and really knowing that preparing for a big production shoot is kind of the way to go. Because when you're on set, like it's never gonna go smooth. But you just gotta roll with the punches, right? So whatever comes your way, you gotta be ready to, catch them curveballs. But I really think that the preparation and dedication just keeps coming to my head because I'm so dedicated to what I do that I think preparing for shoots or for even if it was a wedding that I was filming, like just preparing for all that is really important to me. And I love writing. like writing and physically and seeing it on a paper and looking back on it, like it gives me a like it's just so cool to look back on all the stuff that we do, because it also shows me how far I've gone and how much I've evolved and grown, not only in like the creative aspect, but generally and personally.
I mean, are you like, would you consider yourself a person that journals from time to time, or is it like, is the journal the planner?
Um, no, I find myself journaling. Like I could tell you, I can't. I mean, I can't even tell you how many notebooks I have. Like I probably have a notebook for my creative ideas, and I have a notebook for like venting, and I have a notebook for like manifesting and kind of like seeing how I see my future. Like I love journaling overall. So I that just helps me in all aspects. Yeah, I got like times 10 of that. But yeah, it's
I feel
amazing.
you.
Yeah.
I mean, I got my own little library of notebooks. Those are just the ones I could reach right now. I mean, the lighting takes up space. This backdrop, you see, this all takes up space, so I can't get to everything. But I feel you in the sense that there is there's so much that could be seen in reflection, right? Like I think of the people in my life who have passed and the journals they leave behind, and now having this new perspective on who they are because they gave me this literature, they gave me this piece of themselves that extends beyond me being able to ask them a question, right? The most enlightening thing is I could probably ask them questions and the answers would be totally different than what I'm receiving in two ways. If there's a date associated with what they're writing, they have captured the moment as best as they could and now have transcribed it, right? If I ask them 10 years later, that answer is farther away from the details and the black and white of what has been written, right? And knowing that you are a creative person, that you're capturing memories, you're capturing the imagination of people, yourself, those around you, the people you interact with. There's something profound about having this legacy that's traceable, right, to the details of like, right, just as you said, sitting with Fego and being like, oh, the notes from last year when we started working on XYZ, right? To now we're in a whole nother arena, right? Going from music videos to think that it's almost like in my feeble little mind, the stair steps of like LO exposure, right? It's like the trailer to the videos, right? The music videos to now there's a production that is a full-on film about something that is so enriching, right? Just going to the comments real quick. Musty Rhodes came through and said the project is going to be beyond bionic. I mean, I believe so. Beyond bionic, beyond iconic, beyond symbolic, beyond all the ICs. Also saying that it's a very clean concept of truth telling and the perspective on the American dream in parentheses, right? In quotations. And also Musty Rhodes is listening in from Cody, Wyoming. I'm gonna assume Musty Rhodes is a play on Dusty Rhodes. Shout out to the wrestling fans out there who participate in getting some healing, some much
Shout
needed
out to the
healing.
American Dream, Dusty Rose.
Sweet dreams for all those that may be going to sleep soon or will be going to sleep after this. But more importantly, right? Yeah, I just think it's profound to catch that, to capture, not just the film, but the what are the notes, right? What are the details? What are the things that are going on, right? We all have lives we live. We all have things that impact us, whether it's helpful or harmful. And having these reflective moments to get in the actual moment, I think is just important, right? And I'm not saying everybody go out and journal, but I think it's important because you get to reflect on your growth, on your progress, on what it is that you've learned as you've developed your skill or does it develop yourself. Overall, that's really what it is. Um, Now, Lacap, you also do messaging, right? There, I've definitely have been uplifted, impacted in the most healthy of ways, the most supportive of ways from your short form videos that you've put out. Where did that come from?
Yeah, so your soul speaking sessions, I really think I've always been wanting to, because I've gone through so much, especially in the my early 20s, I'm just such an advocate for wanting people to know that they're not alone. Because at one point in my life, like I wanted it to be over. I didn't want to be here, this, and that. Like, so I really want to just spread light on the fact that it's okay to be broken. Like it's okay to not be okay. And just kind of sharing my experiences because I know a lot of people won't be able to relate necessarily, but in a way, I'm hoping that it will help at least kind of shift their perspective on things because it could be hard, right? There's days where it's like it's hard to get out of bed, but like a little forcing and pushing could kind of help gain that momentum back, or just journaling and kind of letting that all out. So I think that's where it comes from. I just wanted to shed light on people and just create this world where you feel safe in, and to know that you're not alone. And because I know it's been hard on a lot of people, um, so and I know how that feels like. So I just wanted to kind of help in that way, in any way I can.
No, I appreciate that. I appreciate both, right? The soul speaking sessions and you doing it, putting in the effort, the work. It doesn't go unnoticed. It is definitely uplifting, right? And it's yeah, it's amazing. With that, Vigo, right? Vigo, what has the transition been like as a creative, going from being this performer to now playing this kind of like this role where it's best if you're not seen, for lack of better terms. What has that been like?
Yeah, man, I love it. I was just, yeah, this feels like definitely an ongoing conversation, but yeah, like it's something, I don't know, I really enjoy kind of playing the background, and I really, or like seeing, for example, we did the Oak Life show, which was phenomenal, Cineo, and but being able to, reach out to different artists and envision what would it look like to have a lineup in a specific order, and then playing off folks is just, yeah, just their vibes. I think the film is a lot like that. It's like, okay, what would it look like to have this poet, because for those that don't know, the film will have poetry and it's spoken word. So figuring out which poet could shed light on this person's story, and yeah, I'm just really enjoying it, man. It's just back to just loving community, and yeah, and having that communication where I could exchange ideas with people, and just fall back after that and let them, show their magic is really dope.
Yeah, no, I think it's important to have a boundary and to be able to know right when and where to engage because just something as simple. You recently had a performance, right? And you handed me a camera, and I went wild with it. I was like, right, no one would have known it was me, but I had so much fun in the ability to capture the moment from different angles, different frames of view, right? Like it's something about changing the medium that is it's just nourishing, right? Like if some people are so fixated and become so consumed with like that one thing, right? And it's like, Lacap is behind the camera and in front of the camera, right? And in both roles, it's a purpose, right? Whether you're literally hearing Lacap speak or it's what Lacap is capturing from the people who are engaged, whether it's the song, right? It's like it's taking that and then adding that extra layer, that dimension of humanity, then getting in front of the camera and doing the same thing, right? Very direct, right? It's this subtle, really subtle flow of how do I maintain that consistency? Speaking of what Lacavas said, right? That same striving for being true to your core, being true and authentic to your inner and whole self, right? Whereas Figo, right, your music, there's a message there. It's not lost. It's not something that you have to dig super fine or people then have to go and transcribe. Sometimes you may need to, but you don't have to go and find the definition of anything. It's felt. It's it lands on you. It's healing. It's whole. And then, yeah, that ability to then go from the stage to then be like, all right, it's not about me, right? It's about the story. It's about these people. It's about capturing, the things that I've seen offhand, right? This is the 100th episode, but this is also an announcement of the transformation of LO and its growth. That in this, I'm seeing people being given a platform to be applauded, right? That's what we try to do here at Lyrical Ones is applaud our people. And here we are in the midst of this documentary being made, and I see that same level of appreciation for your community, that same level of awareness to take the time out to give the attention to detail for to the people who you could drive down the street and complain about, right? Like, oh man, they just ruined this neighborhood. These tents all lined up on the street, not realizing there's a whole story of things that have happened for this person to end up in this position, right? There's a whole life that lives in this tent that has experienced love, maybe has experienced hate, has experienced what it means to have and then to not have, right? To make do with whatever little you can gain. And, I see that in the way that you both have been able to, just capture these people in their where they are now, right? In this moment, but also giving them the chance to shed light on what's the context behind this, right? Where did they come from? What happened? How did we get here? Because what you don't see when people often are looking at, rather than engaging, rather than acknowledging they're a part of the community, because they are community members, right? Their means of living is different than yours. That's the only thing. It's just different, right? Because you can easily walk into someone's house and see there's chaos, right? The floor can be clean, the bathroom could be immaculate, but the tension and the emotion and what's going on within the walls, right? But we won't judge, right? Because they have what others don't. They have a home, they have a house. Yet, within the confines of these very veiled, very fabric ridden, textured, right? These tents, there can be love. There can
There's a
be,
story.
there's all, yeah, it's a story of something that is appreciated, whether you want to acknowledge it or not. And now here we are acknowledging it through the two of you, right? We're getting a chance to see what is going on when people aren't given, right? You said that the film starts off with a land acknowledgement, which for a lot of people may be very jarring, but I think it's one of the most beautiful, like, cinematic moments that showcases something that I have not seen. Maybe my ignorance is just so profound, but I have not seen the indigenous people of the Bay Area be so immaculately, so graciously, so beautifully represented,
Right.
and have it be tied to where we currently are as a country, as a world, right? We're talking about the people who often go unacknowledged, more recently have been acknowledged, right? People have taken the time to talk about the Ohlone tribe, the people who were the original caretakers of the land, right? And now here you are, right? And people are getting a chance to see that, to know that, oh, before the colonialism, before the consumerism, before the capitalism, before the technological revolution, before any of these things took place, there were people here that were taking care of the land. Like they were one with the land, right? They were the ones that knew how to control the fire, right? We always talk about California and all the smoke. Little did people know, right, that a lot of the tribes indigenous to this land were able to manage the land using the fire, not being lost to it, not having their life being destroyed because they
Right.
were one with the land, right? And so now here we are, we're witnessing a time of evolution that's being captured by Lacap, right? That's being captured by Fego in a way that is so not just wholesome, but done with a level of intentionality and artistic creative merit that I have not seen. I've seen movies that talk and touch on aspects of what's in this film. And when the film is released, you'll see that it definitely ties into some of the more popular movies. It ties in, like I'm telling you, like I'm just saying, the things that are being pulled off behind the scenes. Y'all gotta applaud yourselves and give yourself props because it caught me off guard. I was like, wait, what? Who in this? How? Y'all got who to help with what? Oh, okay. We see what y'all doing. Right. But it's important because it goes to show that the people who often will scoff at the person that is struggling, that is looking for housing, right? You'll applaud someone when you see them in a movie, right? You'll applaud them when you know that their name is attached to a brand or to something that has such significance and dominance in popular culture. But those same people, they understand what's going on, that they have taken the time to want to support these two creatives and bringing and highlighting something that is just so important. And it's often just gone undiscussed. It's not given the time of day, right? From the people who are intense to the people who are originally here, there's an acknowledgement of people on the most basic of humanitarian levels to just acknowledge, to just
That's
give
right.
them a chance to share their piece, to share who they are, and to be seen. And so, I wanted to say that because it's important to not only applaud y'all for the work that y'all doing, right? But to know how it impacts me to witness it, right? To have
That's right.
seen the trailers, to have seen the segments, to have the opportunity to work alongside y'all in different capacities, to know that this is feeding the soul on a level super unseen. Now, I don't know if I've been so focused on this camera, I haven't been able to look at the screen. Has there been any comments that have popped up?
Yeah, yeah.
Axel Blaze Skate.
Yeah, Streets
Shout
of
out.
Rage 3. What you know what it is?
I mean, I ain't gonna go Streets Rate 3. I'm going Streets Rate 2. I mean, you know what I'm saying? Come on, Streets Rate 2, baby. Yuzo Koshiro, holla at your boy, Japan. We on it.
But
Um,
was skating Streets of Rage 2 though?
yes, of course.
Oh, that's
Axel
right.
Blaze Skate. They were in 2 and 3. And
2 and 3.
we didn't talk about nothing else. But this is the main thing I needed to
Oh,
hear while I was
they.
side scrolling. Great to hear. Oh, see, Axel Blaze Skate came through with them bars. Okay. This is the main thing I needed to hear while I was side scrolling. Great to hear and see truth through the arts, right? In the streets of rage, right? There's a syndicate, Mr. X. He has taken over the city and he has corrupted it through crime and within the police, right? And this game that came out years ago in the 90s, there's a lot of echoing in terms of what we're experiencing right now in our
Right.
current life, in our current form, right? But Axel Blaze Skate also said there's always an origin and genesis to everything. Bars. Thank you, lyrical ones, for shedding light amongst the chaos on the journey and stages and all that y'all do. Look, man, I don't know what's going on, but who, whoever out there, whatever's the lyrical ones, the man, like y'all getting with it. Like for those that know, there's some layered textures in there that y'all ain't even peeping, right? It's pixelated,
They've
but when you
been with
zoom
it.
out, you gonna know
They've
what's
been
up.
they've been with it. They've been lyrical ones.
That's real. I mean, everyone's lyrical, and yeah, amongst the chaos on the journey and stages and all that y'all do, it's appreciated. Thank you, Axel Blaze Skate. It's important that we highlight everyone, that we take time to rejoice in everyone's existence. And yeah, this documentary, I believe, is doing that. Vigo, with that being said, right, what is something that you're looking to convey, right? You don't have to give the full on, you could just give one aspect of what you hope people can take away after watching this film.
That's a really good question. Just look around, like literally, just look around. It's like it, I was actually talking about this with Des too, about like we're not here to like, how do I say this? Pick a political side or a whatever narrative that may come from this. It's more like let's pay attention and let's start a conversation around like folks. These are basic needs. Like everyone, regardless of your political view, religious, your sexuality, whatever, everyone deserves the basics of a house, a roof over your heads, food, shelter, clothing, right? And yeah, overall, that's, if I were to sum it up, that's what I want to convey in this. And also to, see yourself in these folks like that. That's, you know, a lot of these conversations, I saw myself in a lot of these residents, and I'm like, I don't know. It's been humbling. So that's the way I would sum it up. Like, yeah. Thank you.
Oh, it's all good. Most definitely. Lacap, how can people observe your work, get in contact with you if they're seeking your support and services? I know you're busy with a film right now, but what what are the ways that people can just see what you've done and
Mm.
get in contact?
Yeah, so I'm on Instagram as LaCapture Visuals, and then I have a website, www.lacaptureproductions.com, that showcases most of my work that has been released. And then I'm also active on TikTok if you're trying to learn tips and tricks for filmmaking. So those are my platforms.
Lacap in the
What
building.
what's the Lacap? What's the TikTok handle?
Um, I think it's just LaCapture.
Okay, for sure.
Yeah, it's LaCapture, I think.
I don't even be on there like that, but I'm about to be on there like that because I'm trying to learn. You see this lighting? It's immaculate.
Yeah, it is. It
That
is.
3 point lighting
Caught me
that
off
you was
guard.
hitting on, I was like, oh, I can't hit three. This three, it look ugly.
Oh
But
yeah,
when you, whoa, what are we doing?
man.
We out here.
I'm about
Dark
to
night.
bring my reflector, my softbox out, and I'm about to re up for for episode 101.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. I hope. I hope so.
We out
Yeah,
here.
got me messed up.
He's showing you
I
out.
I've been on my low budget. I'm okay with him showing me out. I'm okay with that. And I'll let that. Yeah, see that? Yeah, I need him to have that love. He can have that. I'm retired.
Figo, how can people get in contact with you, support you on this journey of, artistry?
Yeah, Figo Navarro. Um, yeah, ego with an F in the front. My last name is Navarro, Navarro, and also tap in with Lyrical Opposition. We be cooking.
We be cooking organically, local and organic. LO. Affluent. Any final words or thoughts for the great audience participants of Lyrical Ones, episode 100?
Yeah, there's been more gratitude added to my chest of feelings. Um, Gratitude for these two creatives, these two artists, co-creators, these visionaries who choose to share the stage so that they may collaborate to form a message made up of many voices. And I'm a something that one of your interviewees uh, told me a while back, and it's something that stuck with me. Yeah. How do you pronounce that? 100? Don't forget the H. Um, but Pastor Kirk Davis said that we should pray to be brokenhearted um, by the folks who are experiencing injustice. Um, that we should always be see that injustice and be brokenhearted for it. Um, and it made me think about the frequency of each person's heart, and that each of us has this little transistor radio that we could fine tune it to the frequency of others that we might hear them. And like Figo said, that we would look around and see ourselves in those who are residents, right? It's like, let's not get it confused that the unhoused are still residents of the areas that we live in the metropolitan area. They're still residents here, and it's important that we see them as neighbors, but more importantly, that we see them as family. I feel like the more we see each other as family, the more we treat each other that way. And everybody's family dynamics is wild and crazy. Um, but also your family creates your emotional activations through interaction. And I think the more diverse and complex your family is, the more we can be empathetic to others, the more we can be empathetic to the world. And we respect each other and love each other by listening to our stories, listening to our history. And I hope that we can all, learn some new stories, her stories and his stories, that we might learn about those origins and genesis of these lyrical ones around us. These everyone has a story that we could learn from each other, love each other, and listening, learning, learn from each other, and grow towards something that's different, beyond the status quo, something that's beyond the attacks on the impoverished that we see in legislation, because that's what's happening. We seeing that with legislation right now. Um, when you start to when you have male lawmakers trying to control women's bodies and outlaw contraceptives, we know that it's attack on the poor. Martin Luther King talked about it before he was assassinated, when he started to speak about jobs, that the impoverished deserve better, and that everyone should have basic rights to provide for themselves and their families. And when you start to handicap people, then you start to see, hey, okay, this legislation, what's happening is policy is trying to attack folks who have less. And I think these lyrical ones, I think these creatives, the capture, Fego, for telling the stories that we need to hear and bringing the stories to us, the stories that go overlooked, and the stories that get unheard, and the stories of the people that get looked over, and left out. So I appreciate y'all. And 100, we made it. And I will never skimp on lighting again.
Hey, it it still look good. I feel like we like everybody's in a different movie. Um, I won't get into all the details of the movies, but definitely, Affluence movie look like something's gonna come creeping up over his. I guess it would be your right shoulder. Yeah. Yeah. It has that vibe. Like eventually something's gonna peek right behind from the veil of the curtain, and then it's gonna snatch you into it, and then we're gonna have lyrical ones. Who knows? So with that being said, as we often do, if there's no final words from our wonderful guest Figo, any final words?
Hey, congratulations, man. This is 100 episode, man. So, when you talk about commitment, discipline, determination, dedication,
And a P.
like straight up, man, pure
Preparation.
inspiration, man. Like y'all made this is history. So I just want to encourage you guys and to continue doing this great work. We was talking with Des, and I know the conversation about having it in the studio session coming soon. That's it. But congratulations for real to both of y'all, because y'all
Thank you.
hold it down. they're gonna look back at some of these episodes and be like, dang, like, they a lot of times people are seeking news and other forms of thought. You know what I'm saying? You guys are, yeah, you're leaders in that.
Right on. Thank you.
Salute.
Appreciate you.
Love y'all.
Des, any final words?
Yes, I just want to touch on that or add on to that, man. Congratulations. When I heard it was the 100th episode, like, that's dope and it's inspiring. And thank y'all so much for your dedication to this because I don't know, it's inspiring and it's only gonna keep going. Freaking Fego with the wine.
Celebration.
Turn up with the wine.
That's right.
But yeah,
Culture.
thank y'all.
Keep it cultural.
That was just for like the
Pop bottles.
championship. Yeah,
The
just felt appropriate.
championship.
Definitely
It's not
cannot
bubbly,
consider that.
but it's still alcoholic. So hey, I appreciate
So
you.
it works.
It works. It still works.
Just for the aesthetic.
More importantly, we're 4 episodes away from episode 104, which means we at 2 years coming up. So that's really solid. That's really solid from a solid community, a solid producer, and we got more stuff coming.
Shout out Shannon coming through on the 100th. Congrats. This is exciting. LMAO popping
Popping
bottles.
bottles.
Oh, here we go.
Popping
As
wine
we
bottles.
often
Look
do.
what you done started, Figo.
I don't have.
All I got is a phone. Oh, and I got this duster.
I don't have anything.
Before I set my mask on fire.
One.
Shout out Juan Artez. Congrats to 100. Keep up the pace. Game. Blouses.
Shout out to the producer. Hey, what's up? We see
Shout out
you.
to Abe.
Got us here to
Abe.
100.
Oh, I guess that's what happens.
Yay!
Because the number's still going. So
Hey!
we here. That's what it is.
Hey!
I mean, the number's
We
still
love
going.
y'all.
We still live. Hey,
We love y'all.
this is the after show now. So